Alright, I am back with another build, and here we are with the second video in the finale to the Deity build series, this kind of three-part finale. We're doing the Deity build for the Chosen of Bhaal, which may seem a bit weird. Obviously, the Chosen of Bhaal in this game is the Dark Urge, so of course this is going to be a Dark Urge character. Most likely the main character you would be playing as if you were to make this full party build, I guess. Well, not full party build, I mean there's three of them, but you know. And so, how exactly do I make a Chosen of Bhaal build that I haven't already done? I've done so many Bhaal builds already. My original Dark Urge Origin build was a Bhaal build. My Storm of Redemption and my Bloody Storm, kind of two sides of the same coin there. You know, I've done so many Bhaalist or Dark Urge builds in the past, but how can I possibly make another one that is not only lore accurate, but also is completely unique from my other builds and still make it work for Bhaal? Well, if I actually read Bhaal's wiki page in a bit more detail, I'd figure it out pretty damn quickly, and that's what me and the rest of the community over on the Deity build live streams, where we made these builds together the past weekend, managed to come up with. And this is such a wild, out there concept, but if you actually go and look at Bhaal's lore and the wiki page for him, it actually makes 100% sense, and I'm so mad that I didn't do this before. Well, actually, I'm not mad, because now I have a very, very cool, viable, and again, extremely powerful build for this character. And you may be thinking, okay, but why aren't we playing as the canon Dark Urge here? Well, you absolutely can, but again, myself and the community decided that we wanted to shake things up a little bit for this particular character, and as such, we did also want slightly different racial features this time around than what the Dragonborn would provide, so we've gone with a Gith today, who I've made look absolutely terrifying, which was extremely fun to design, by the way. I mean, look at this dude, he looks like a Bhaal spawn for sure. And honestly, this build is so interesting, and I'll get more into it as we go. But I mean, we might as well just get started. I'm really excited to talk about this build because it has to be one of my favorites I've ever done. So let's get into it. We're going to be kicking things off as a Bard today. Well, the reason we're going to be going for Bard levels is we do want something very specific, a very specific spell, but starting off with Bard is going to give us a lot of things that we like. Thanks to the combination of starting off as a Githyanki and a Bard, we're going to gain access to a ton of different weapons. Long swords, short swords, great swords, rapiers, simple weapons and hand crossbows, light and medium armor, as well as a ton of skill proficiencies that we're going to want for this build. Now, our Black Hand, the Bane build, is definitely going to be more of the charisma-based character here, but I did want to get some more of the kind of like skill proficiencies to make us at least good at things like deception, which we are going to want for this build, because, well, I'll just get into it as quickly as I can. Starting off with our cantrips. Of course, we're going for Vicious Mockery. We're playing a Bard who doesn't want to throw insults at people as a Dark Urge. And also Friends. We're going to want to gain advantage on charisma checks. Again, we're going to be lying and deceiving our way out of certain situations. Usually the ones where we've murdered someone and we want to cover it up. But next up are our spells. I've mainly got utility options here. Charm Person is here as a flavor spell, but I'd honestly replace it with Speak with Animals here. I had this on during testing, but of course with our slightly lower charisma, even with our lower charisma, we don't really need it because we have friends, so I'd say get rid of this one. But we absolutely want Speak with Animals, Longstrider and Featherfall for utility, and Disguise Self. I decided to play a little bit on the whole Orin thing here. While we're not playing a Changeling, we are going to be playing what I would call a Shapeshifter, because there's a lot of precedent for Bhaal having Shapeshifters under his kind of command, not just with Orin, but a few others as well, and again, we'll get to that in a minute. Obviously, spoilers for the Dark Urge run here. I would say I'm going to be starting to talk about spoilers from now. So, there's also the Slayer form. Bhaal himself is known to take on many forms, known as the Slayer, the Ravager, which this build is named after, and the Khazgaroth, and he has a few of those forms. Obviously, we know the Slayer most, and this build is meant to work with the Slayer, so that's always fun. So I thought I would just point that out here, that between the Slayer form and Disguise Self, we're going to be shapeshifting quite a lot, but we are also going to get a few more transformations, as you'll be seeing a bit later in the build. Next up for our starting instrument, take whatever you like, it doesn't matter, I'm going to be unequipping it so that we're going to be using our voice instead. And finally, for our ability scores, this is what we have. Dexterity is at 16. I do plan to have us use dual daggers with this build, although any dual wielding finesse weapons will work, so Dexterity at 16 is going to be great for us here. Constitution Intelligence is at 15. We're going to be rounding this up with a half feat later. Strength and Intelligence are both at 8. We don't need them. Wisdom is at 16, as it is going to be our main spellcasting modifier, and Charisma is at 10. For our skill proficiencies, obviously, if you are playing as the Dark Urge, you will have the Haunted One background, giving you access to Medicine and Intimidation, which I've selected here anyway. But obviously, you don't have to play this build as the Dark Urge, in which case I have gone with the the Criminal background for Stealth and Deception. So if you're playing this build, I would make sure you at least have Deception and Intimidation, which again, from your background as the Dark Urge, you will have, and definitely make sure you have Sleight of Hand and Stealth as well. Obviously, we wouldn't have the Medicine proficiency normally, so feel free to put that into something. Oh, we would already have Medicine proficiency, sorry. So feel free to put that into something else. Right, let's keep going. Next up, we're going to be going to Bard level 2. You don't actually need to take this level, but I felt like it gave us a lot of stuff that I kind of like for this build, especially running it in conjunction with my other Dead 3 Deity builds. First off, we're going to get Jack of all trades, allowing us to add half our proficiency bonus to any ability checks we are not proficient in. This just makes us a little bit better at everything. We also get Song of Rest, giving us 3 short rests per long rest, which is really, really good. Short rests are not only going to fuel our features that we're going to be getting from our multi-class in just a second, but also the Warlock spell slots for our Bane build from earlier this week. So overall, it just synergizes quite nicely with the rest of the team, as well as our own abilities. We also do get to choose another spell at this level. Take whatever you like, it really doesn't matter. I quite like Sleep here. It feels very Ballist Assassin-y, for sure, just being able to sleep an opponent and then stab them while they're sleeping. So yeah, take Sleep here for the flavour. Now next up, we immediately get into the main meat and potatoes, and we're going to go for 10 levels of Druid. Now, you guys have to hear me out on this one. Obviously, if we're playing a shapeshifter build, then the best way to get a ton of different transformations outside of just Disguise Self and the Slayer form is to go with Wildshape Druid. But how the hell, you must be wondering, does Wildshape Druid make sense for a Bhaal build? Well, there is this little subsection of Bhaal spawn-esque creatures called the Children of Bhaal. One of them was an owlbear. The other was a Displacer beast, a transformation we can also get thanks to the psionic abilities, and another one was a group of flying, what are they called, Peritons? I've got the page up here, give me a second. A group of flying Peritons, yes, I was correct. So, there is actually precedent for Bhaal spawn to be animals, and creatures of various kinds. So we're gonna go with a shape-shifting, wild-shaping druid, Bhaal Assassin, because it's really cool. Like, it was just kind of an offhand comment that was so out there during the stream, but once we started thinking about it, actually, it makes a really fun and powerful build that synergizes well with the rest of the team, and is good. And again, just mixing Bard and Druid is always fun as well. It's just such an interesting playstyle that plays so well into the lore of Bhaal, and we're not done yet. We're going to get some things related to other followers of Bhaal as well, ones that you may not know about. So, with Druid, we're going to gain access to a few things right here at level 1 of Druid, level 3 total. I'm going to be picking up Thorn Whip because it is a thorny whip that pulls enemies closer to us. That feels very bloody. As well as Guidance, because who doesn't want a little buff to all of our ability checks? Now, between both Guidance and Friends, we have a lot of different ways of passing a lot of different ability checks in conjunction with Jack of all trades as well. So I feel like it works out quite nicely. Next up, we do get to prepare for Druid spells, and these are the 4 that I would go with. First up, Entangle, so we can restrain our opponents and then stab them. Really good. We have a lot of ways of stabbing people really good in this build. I would also recommend picking up maybe, let's see, what else do we have here? I did pick up a few things. Ice Knife for a ranged stab attack. A Fog Cloud to make a quick exit or sneak in for more stabbing. And finally, Goodberry. Because everybody, even the Bhaal spawn, needs a little pick-me-up every now and then. It's not Goodberry. We're using Evil Berry. Because we're evil. Next up, for our subclass, of course, we're going with Circle of the Moon. Circle of the Moon is going to allow us to wild shape as a bonus action instead of an action, which is going to help for some combos that we'll be getting into a bit later. It's also going to give us Lunar Mend, allowing us to expend our spell slots to heal ourselves while in wild shape. This is going to make us extremely tanky, even more so than usual. We're also going to get access to all of our wild shape forms, stuff from maneuverability and stealth, like the cat, the wolf, the badger, the spider, and the cave bear, so we get a nice bear wild shape here. Well, it's actually a polar bear. Halsin gets the cave bear. I don't know why they had to make that so specific. But we also do get to pick another spell at this level. Choose whatever you like, it really doesn't matter. I'm going to go with Enhanced Leap. Next up, at Druid level 3, we're going to get access to level 2 spells. And because we're now at total level 5, we have all of our Githyanki racial abilities. So that's Mage Hand, Misty Step, and I forget the other one, Enhanced Sleep. We already technically had it from Druid, but we also get it as a Githyanki, and it's not a once per long rest restriction, so we might as well use it. Next up for our prepared spells, I do want some of these level 2 spells, namely Hold Person, because of course we are. Again, it's very ballist of us. We also do get access to things like Heat Metal, which I quite like for this build as well. And you can also pick up things like Spike Growth to, you know, impale your enemy's feet and prevent them from getting away. You know, Druid is a lot darker than you might think upon an initial glance, and I also like Pass Without Trace to make our entire team more stealthy. The worst part about playing an assassin character is when the full plate paladin messes things up for you. Bane. Chosen of Bane, that guy, you know, the full plate paladin that we made earlier. I'm having some fun with this video, if you couldn't tell. Next up, at Druid level 4, we're going to get access to more wild shapes, including a Deep Wraith and a Dire Raven. So now we've got 2 members of this party who can wild shape into ravens. I don't know, there's probably something fun there. Hey! We've got a murder! Oh, my energy in this build is very, very different than normal. Anyways, next up for our cantrips, you can choose whatever you like. We're an assassin, let's grab some poison. We also do get to choose another spell at this level, and again, these are all prepared spells, so just chop and change them as you see fit. We also do get a feat at this level, and of course we have the ability to wild shape, which means that we're going to be grabbing Tavern Brawler and bumping up our constitution. For those of you that don't know, Tavern Brawler's ability works with wild shapes that use unarmored strikes, including the main wild shape that we're going to be using, which is the Owlbear, for obvious reasons that I've explained earlier. But whenever we make an unarmed attack, use an improvised weapon or throw something, our strength modifier is added twice to the damage and attack rolls. This works in wild shape, making our wild shapes very strong. Any of you who have watched a Moon Druid build of mine before will know this combo, but it works even more so here. Next up, at Druid level 5, we get access to level 3 spells, and I'm going to be grabbing Plant Growth as, again, another way of ensuring that our targets don't escape. Next up at Druid level 6, we're finally getting access to the Owlbear at total level 8. You can technically get here 1 level earlier if you don't care about the 2nd level of Bard right away, but I do like to keep my levels even. That's just how I am. It's something in my brain. But Owlbear is going to be amazing for us. We get to take the form of an Owlbear that can rupture the ground and become enraged. Rupture allows you to smash the ground, causing creatures to take kind of bludgeoning damage and also kind of be... and also objects will be destroyed. But we can also go into an enrage, like a barbarian's rage, which I am going to flavor as a blood frenzy. We give into the Owlbear's base instincts to increase our strength by 2. Awesome, that's more powerful unarmed strikes thanks to Tavern Brawler, and possibly make nearby creatures fearful. Kind of wish the Slayer form got this. But anyways, this means we're going to be able to go into our Blood Frenzy as an Owlbear, which just feels so fun flavor-wise. So yes, this ball-list Owlbear Assassin is just chef's kiss. It's amazing. We're also going to gain access to Primal Strike, allowing our unarmed strikes to overcome resistance and immunity to non-magical damage, which is awesome. We also do gain access to another level 3 spell at this point. It's entirely up to you what you want to pick. You might want to grab something from the lower levels instead, maybe pick up some of those older utility options that we did have, that then didn't take it, and then got rid of and swapped around. You know how it is. Prepared spellcasters and all that. Next up, at Druid level 7, we're going to get access to level 4 spells. And as you know, this is where the power level of the, the Druid, can really pop off. We're going to be grabbing Freedom of Movement, because we just cast it at the start of the day, and it works with our wild shapes, meaning that we won't be stunned, difficult terrain cannot slow us down, and we cannot be magically paralyzed or restrained. Pretty damn awesome. We're also going to gain access to the summoning spell, Conjure Minor Elemental, starting to get summons, as well as being able to transform into all these different things and be super tanky, means that we're just going to be an incredible presence on the battlefield, even solo. I didn't use summons in my testing for this build, and honestly this build doesn't even need them to be really, really strong, but more bodies and more DPS on the battlefield each round is just too good to not to pass up here. So yeah, this build is insane. I mean, Moon Druid in general is just insane, especially in this game. Anyways, next up at Druid level 8, we're going to gain access to the Saber-Tooth Tiger Wildshape, which has some unique aspects, feel free to check that out on your own, and also another spell slot. Barkskin can be nice because it can give us a bit of resistance to damage. We also gain access to another feat at this level, and you have a few choices. Alert is a great choice as always because it gives you a +5 bonus to initiative and makes it so you cannot be surprised. This will allow you to be more likely, even with our slightly lower dexterity, to be able to do some early game shenanigans. We kind of set up before a battle, or at least if you can't set up before a battle, you have a chance to set up at the start of the battle. Because you will have noticed in the combat footage from the beginning of the video, but I did this little trick with the Displacer beast where I displaced someone out of combat, and because I was early enough in the initiative order, I was just able to bitch slap them over and over and over again until they were dead before my enemies really got a chance to do anything about it, which is really, really nice. But there are a few more options for you. Since we do have longsword proficiency, you could go with Dual Wielder. Dual Wielder would allow you to dual wield the the Valor Eluve and the Larithian's Wrath together for a powerful longsword dual wield combo if you want, and give you a +1 to armor class while doing so. It'll make us a little bit more effective outside of Wildshape, and again, we can just get that bonus to armor class whenever we're dual wielding. But you don't need to take this one; it's not a huge deal. Unfortunately, this was patched, but this did actually used to give you a +1 to AC while in Wildshape too, but that's not here, which is a shame. Lucky, good on any build. Mobile, works with Wildshape. Very, very good. I've been told Savage Attacker works with Wildshape. I've yet to test it properly myself. Let me know if that's true. You can also pick up the Tough Feat if you want a little bit more HP outside of Wildshape to be a bit more tanky, and Warcaster will help you maintain concentration on our powerful Druid concentration spells. I would personally recommend either Alert, which is what I used in my testing, or Warcaster. Both will work pretty damn nicely. I would probably actually suggest Warcaster a bit more, because it's going to synergize with a spell that we're going to be using later. Next up at Druid level 9, we're going to gain access to level 5 spells. For our level 5 spell selection, we have some pretty damn good ones. Contagion is obviously an amazing choice for a Ballist Assassin, allowing us to poison our target and give them really debilitating status effects. We can also pick up Conjure Elemental here, meaning that between Conjure Elemental and Conjure Minor Elemental, we can have up to 3 summons on the board at once. Technically more if you go with Conjure Woodland Being, but that feels a little bit too far on the Druid side, getting a bit more into Sylvanas' territory. And we're not really supposed to be doing Druid Wildshapes technically. This is more of our own shape-shifting ability given to us by Bhaal in a similar fashion to the Slayer transformation. So I would say that we're going to be sticking to kind of a non-nature-y summons. I mean, we do have some nature-based abilities here, but if you feel like those aren't really good flavor-wise, then trade them out for literally anything here. We got freaking Blight, a big damage necrotic attack, which I absolutely love for this build, and also things like Confusion to befuddle our target's minds. There's just so many interesting ways you can approach an assassin-themed build with Druid, and I just love all the options that we have here. And finally, at our capstone of level 12, level 10 of Druid. This is going to give us access to improved Wild Strike. Now we can make 2 extra attacks while in Wildshape. That is awesome. We're also going to gain access to the Dilophosaurus Wildshape, which is just fun. Clever girl. And also because we're a Moonshape Druid, we gain access to the Elemental Myrmidon Wildshapes, which is just super fun as well. But of course, we're mainly going to be an owlbear. Or a dinosaur. Dinosaurs are also fun. You do get another cantrip at this level. I just took resistance, and an extra level 5 spell of your choice. I like Insect Plague because, again, it feels evil. And that is the build. Overall, what you're going to be getting out of this is, well, it's a bloody Moon Druid. It's a Moon Druid with 2 levels of Bard, so you're getting a bunch of useful utility from Bard, that being Song of Rest and Disguise Self for us, as well as friends, and then you just get all of the Moon Druid stuff, the powerful wild shapes, the tankiness, the summons, the, powerful concentration spells. You just get everything. Like, there's nothing here that's not to love. So, yeah, overall, I mean, you're just going to have a ton of stuff to work with. If you guys have seen a Moon Druid build, you kind of know how this goes. But again, with the lore and the theming and just everything works so well for a ball build, but if you've never tried playing a Dark Urge Druid, I highly recommend it. This is going to be such a fun build to roleplay as and play as throughout. And again, getting the kind of theming of being able to use things like the Displacer Beast shape and the Slayer form as well, just feels so, so nice. Now, let's get into the equipment, because you have a few options. Some of these are, again, pretty standard affair for your typical wild shaping Druid. However, we do have a few more unique things here that I think can help spice up this build a little bit. Let's start off with the weapons. I'm going to get into this one first. We are bringing the Darkfire Shortbow to this build. Now, obviously, this is great. It's going to give us resistance to fire and cold damage and an option for a ranged attack if we want it. The main thing we want from this, obviously, is haste once per long rest. Now, usually this is just a power building move, but believe it or not, this actually does have lore significance to a type of followers of Bhaal, the Blood Warriors. Let me pull up their page really quickly. Yes, the Blood Warriors. Basically a group of undead warriors that were once kind of human fighters, but were transformed by the dark magic of Khaz'goroth, one of Bhaal's avatars. Their main thing was they were kind of like vampires, being able to do things like lifesteal, which unfortunately I wasn't really able to get with this build, but again, we'll get to that in a minute. We have a minor way of doing it. But the main thing is that they had the ability to fight using the haste spell. So, getting haste on this build is lore accurate to Bhaal. It's also kind of where I've went for almost like a semi-undead look with this character, because it all just fits so nicely together. And obviously haste, we cast it before we wild shape, and then we can use it in wild shape, which means 6 attacks with the bloody owlbear, or the Displacer beast, or the Slayer, because they all both get 2 extra attacks. It's insane. It's absolutely insane to use this build with haste, which is why I recommend the Warcaster feat, because I believe the Warcaster's concentration thing does go into wild shape. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, if not, then alert. But, honestly, it's going to be so fun for this build, and even still, Warcaster works for all these concentration spells anyway, so I do still recommend it. Anyways, on to our weapons, we have the Rhapsody. Rhapsody is a endgame dagger, but it's going to give you a +1 bonus to attack rolls, damage, and spell save DC for every foe you slay up to a maximum of 3, so that just feels very on theme anyway. You can also possibly inflict bleeding while hitting a creature while hiding or invisible. Awesome. But the main thing here is that we do have some extra abilities from this. Namely, that Rhapsody will let us use our stacked up charges for various effects. One of them being to heal ourselves. So there you go, there's your lifesteal, there's your Blood Warrior lifesteal. I mean, it makes sense, we're kind of combining the Ravager, the Children of Bhaal, and the Blood Warriors all into one build. I'm going to do a Vampiric lifesteal build soon. Halloween is coming up, so expect that very soon. Next up, the Steelmaker. Never really used this in the build, gives us an extra casting of Hold Person at level 3. Is a +2 dagger, and apparently is considered like the canonical dagger for the Dark Urge, but so, I mean, I figured I'd just include it in this build. But let's look at the other dagger options. Of course, once we eventually slay Orin, we can take her dagger, giving us an improved critical hit ratio, True Strike as a bonus action, I believe. Yes, there it is. And also, we get to make it so creatures receive vulnerability to piercing damage. So, you can pick this up a bit later into the game. For the early game, I would recommend the Susa dagger, which can potentially silence a target on hit, and the Ritual dagger to allow you to receive a +1 bonus to attack rolls and saving throws until the end of your next turn after a successful attack with the dagger. You can also use Blood Sacrifice to damage yourself to give the same benefit. All in all, really good set of weapons here. The only downside, obviously, is the fact that they have a low damage die. So if you wanted to throw maybe like a short sword in one of these slots, or a scimitar, absolutely feel free. Next up, for the equipment. For the headpiece, we have the Helmet of Grit. Whenever the wearer basically has less than half their hit points, they have an additional bonus action. So if you're all out of transformations, you aren't out of options. Once you're knocked to half health, you'll get a second bonus action, meaning that you basically get extra attack while dual wielding. This is kind of another one of my boss battle builds, where you have multiple phase transitions and such like that. However, you don't need to have this on all the time. Once per long rest, you can get an extra wild shape charge through the Shapeshifter hat. So you just get another transformation per long rest. This is with these 2 transformations, and for 2 wild shapes we get per short rest. That is 5 transformations per long rest. Next up, for our cloak, you've got the Deathstalker mantle, because of course you do. Whenever you kill an enemy, you become invisible for 2 turns. Synergizes nicely with the other stuff that we got going on here. Next up, for our armor, of course, we're going with the Armour of Moonbasking. This is going to give you 22 temporary hit points after casting Wild Shape, so even more tankiness, and while we have those temp hit points, we reduce all incoming damage by 1. And both inside and outside of Wild Shape, we have a +2 bonus to armor class, and advantage on saving throws against spells. This is awesome. Every Wild Shape Druid should have this. But for the early game, we can use the Spider Silk Armour, which gives us a +1 bonus to stealth checks and advantage on con saving throw checks, meaning that our concentration spells will stay up longer. Next up, for our gloves, we have the Gloves of the Balanced Hands. We don't really need any gloves if we're mostly going to be in Wildshape, so these just allowing us to add our basically giving us 2-weapon fighting, adding our ability modifier to the damage of our offhand attacks. It just gives us full dual wielding without needing to take a dip into fighter, which you could actually do if you want to. You could go for con save proficiency and such like that. And action surge as well, which could be pretty fun. So feel free to swap out the bard levels for fighter levels if you don't care about the Sky Self. Otherwise, you can just pick these up. And finally, we have the Evasive Shoes. There wasn't really any boots I particularly wanted on this build, so just giving us a +1 bonus to our armor class, which this build kind of needs, as by default we only have 17. We only have 17 with everything that all stacked together. I think it's just nice to have. It's a nice comfort kind of piece of equipment here. Next up, for our amulets, of course, we're using the amulet of Bhaal, allowing us to inflict bleeding upon targets that have maximum hit points. This is mainly just here for lore, so if you want a different option, go for the amulet of the Harpers. That gives you advantage on wisdom saving throw checks and a usage of shield once per long rest. Next up, the Shapeshifter's Boon Ring. While shapeshifting or disguising yourself, you gain a +1 d4 bonus to all checks. Oh, I mean, yeah, of course I was going to use this one. And finally, the Killer's Sweetheart, because it has killer in the name and it gives us an automatic critical hit. Again, even when we don't have any transformations left, we can still do a big damage attack with one of our daggers, and then, again, if we're less than 50% hit points, we could just go for a flurry of blows. So it's pretty cool. And yeah, that is the build itself. For the kind of outfit that I'm wearing here, I'm using the Absolute outfit, which is a base vanilla outfit, with the camp boots from the Citizens Camp clothing mod, which is available in the in-game mod manager, as well as the Faerunian colours Ball Dye, because of course I am, which just makes this build look absolutely awesome. But yeah, that is the build, and like I said, there is so much good stuff to love here. It's got everything that a Moon Druid loves with extra utility built in. The extra transformations, that being Displacer, Beast Shape, and Slayer, really just add to the whole theme of the build. And when you actually look into Bhaal's lore and realize how much this build actually does make sense, it just feels so fun that such an out there concept works so well for this build. So while any of my evil Dark Urge builds could work for a Chosen of Bhaal character, this one I really like, and I like that this one is the one that's part of the Deity build series, because it just feels so bloody different. Could it be stronger? Maybe. Could it be optimized in places? Probably. But even without that, this is still an insane character. Between this and the Bane build, you've got a pretty powerful duo already, so I'll be interested to see how the Merkel build stacks up to them. But anyways, that is pretty much going to do it from me. There's not much else more to say here. The next build will be Merkel, and that will be the conclusion of the Deity build series. Totally, 100%. Not everyone was there for the live stream, I'm sure. Anyways, but like I say, feel free to look out for more of my live streams in the future. I've got some pretty interesting stuff going on here in October. I'm helping out with another charity event, this time for the Blue Cross. I'll have a bit more information on that later as we start to head towards the end of October, because I've got a bit of a event week planned myself, which I think is going to be quite fun. Also, for October, I'm going to be doing Halloween-themed Origin builds. All of the Origin characters are dressing up for Halloween as classic monsters from fiction, being Frankenstein, the Mummy, the Vampire Lord Dracula. There's a ton of different ones that are going to come out. I really hope you enjoy those builds. But yeah, I feel my voice is starting to go again, so I'm going to end this video now. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.